And when I saw this company was offering money to people in advance, saying like, we'll give you money now, you just use us later to sell your home, I was like, there's got to be a catch. And then I saw your article, and the catch is a 40-year lien on your home.
Welcome to season 2 of the Real Estate Replay. This season, we're opening up the co-host chair to agents, lenders, and other professionals across the country. These handpicked co-hosts will help us dissect stories told by sellers and buyers and help point out the good, the bad, the unethical, or perhaps illegal things that they experienced. We'll learn what to look for, what to avoid, and how to not get screwed when selling or buying.
Today's episode is just a little bit different. And the co-host here today is Rebecca Leipson. She's a real estate reporter for the Tampa Bay Times, whose article or expose, I'm not sure what we want to call it, a few weeks ago came out about a real estate company that was already on my radar. So Rebecca, thanks for jumping in the co-host seat today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So a little backstory. I watch a lot of startups that come on the real estate scene. And sadly, my brain likes to poke holes in a lot of them to figure out, like, how exactly are you making money? And when I saw this company was offering money to people in advance, saying, like, we'll give you money now, you just use us later to sell your home, I was like, there's got to be a catch. And then I saw your article, and the catch is a 40-year lien on your home. So I want to know, so how did you find out about this program?
Yeah. So funny enough, I actually found it through one of the lawsuits from them trying to sue a client to collect on that lien. So that lawsuit caught my eye, and I started making some calls about it. And I reached out to a real estate attorney here who I actually quote him in the article, but he was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're asking me about this. Like, I've been like agitating about these guys forever. Like, someone needs to do something about this. So it's like, okay, great. I'm on to something.
On the right path. Right.
It's really easy to find these lawsuits that they have out there because there's so many of them. Like, basically anyone who violates this contract, like, immediately gets slapped with a lawsuit, which is something I thought was so interesting because it's like, I was curious how they're like keeping track of these things. And I didn't really get an answer on that.
Right. I wonder if they're like watching the property or if they're watching the person. I know there's a way, because all these companies, there's so many companies out there that profit from referral fees, like all these best agent websites who get a cut of commission when you close. So I know they watch a ton of people. So what did you find out what happens when the homeowner doesn't use them? So essentially they say, hey, we'll give you what? I thought it was $500 to $5,000. I think it said on their website. It's a loan alternative is what it originally said. And then it just said, we just ask that you use us when you actually are ready to sell your home. And so I guess there was like an 8 or 9 page contract. But what maybe wasn't specifically explained was what happens when people sign that and the homeowner doesn't use them. What did you find out?
Right. So, I mean, if they sign the contract and then they don't sell the house, like, nothing happens. They're totally fine until the 40 years is up. But if they do sell it with another agent, then that's when things kind of get interesting. So the contract basically spells out that they have to pay what they call an early termination fee. And that's essentially equivalent to the value of 3% of the home. So like whatever the commission that their realtor would have collected if they had used them for the sale. To collect that early termination fee, the company files lawsuits, basically threatening people like, we have this lien on your home. Like, it is spelled out in the contract, but unfortunately, as we know, a lot of people don't really read everything that's signed.
Well, you had an example too, and it was like 8 or 9 pages of just full on legal mumbo. I don't want to say mumbo jumbo because that's not a professional word, but I forget the one lawyer said it's such a dense contract and what the devil's in the details.
Yeah, it's just really like airtight and just really cleverly worded. So, I mean, again, if you're someone who knows about real estate or if you have some legal background, like, and you're going through that, then you would catch those things immediately. But like, not every layperson is prepared to be looking out for those sorts of things.
Right. And then there was something too, if you sign this and you unfortunately pass away within that 40-year timeline, like that still stays with the home, right?
Like if you were to die and leave your house in your will to your child and they went to go sell the home and they didn't use MV Realty, then they would also get slapped with that early termination fee.
I know there was one in particular, I think his name was Roy, that you interviewed, and he was heading into was it foreclosure?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Roy, actually also found him through just like calling up anyone who they had like hit with these lawsuits. And he got back to me, and his story really struck me because he was in such a difficult position. So Roy was already in some financial trouble and at risk of losing his home before MV Realty ever got in contact with him. He kind of had like an ongoing like foreclosure case, and it was paused and then it wasn't. It was a whole back and forth with him. But um, at the point that MV called him, he was like really not in a good place and desperately needed the money. So he was like, this is great. He got the email from them offering him, I think it was like $800-ish, I want to say.
Right.
He signed up, he got the money, he forgot all about it. Then essentially the foreclosure was coming to pass, like they were setting a date for his auction. And he thought he was going to be able to bypass that by selling the home because I mean, at that time, like the market was so hot, like it was really easy to find a cash buyer. So he got hooked up with a real estate agent that had a cash buyer who was like ready to take the home off of his hands, and he would have made a pretty hefty profit. Like I think he would have had like $100,000 left over after like paying off the debts. So he would have been doing pretty well for himself. But basically, when they went to go kind of finalize the deal, the buyer saw that he had this lien on his home from MB Realty. And so they backed out of the deal. So ultimately, the foreclosure went forward. He owed so much money that, like, whatever it sold for in the auction, he really was not left over with much. And that the like little surplus funds that he did have, MB Realty basically petitioned the court to try and get that money because they said they were owed the lien on his home.
Right. Did they end up getting it? I don't know if there was an outcome to that case or if he's still.
So the last time I checked, the judge still had not made a decision because there were a few different stakeholders that were trying to get the money. It wasn't just MV Realty, but they were certainly trying to get the money.
Oh, that's fascinating to me. I just, I saw on their website, they claimed to have 30,000 people signed up for this program. And I think only 700 have sold so far. And I think the lawyer you
Right.
interviewed mentioned, like, is this going to be a ginormous legal issue?
Right. Yeah. So that number really stood out to me as well. From first glance, my thought was that seems really low that only 700 people have sold so far. Because I think in my mind, if you're like a real estate brokerage, majority of the people who you are signing up with would likely be actively trying to sell their homes.
Right. Right.
So that already to me was like, that's kind of strange. So I mean, there's really no way to tell how many of these people that signed up for the program maybe did sell their homes, but just not with MV Realty. And so they ended up breaking that contract. Unfortunately, like there's really no way to find that out, but that would be really interesting to me. But yeah, they're still signing people up for this program. And so down the line, this is just going to be a continuous problem when people get locked into these contracts. I would say the vast majority of them are not going to be sticking around in the same house for 40 years. So this is going to have to come to pass.
Right.
And either the Realty profits off of this by actually selling these people's homes, or they profit off of it by collecting on the lien.
It's interesting too that they take 3% because I see commissions all over the board, and it might be a little bit different in Tampa, but I don't really see a ton of agents at 3% to list too, which is interesting. It's usually, every market's a little bit different, but on average, it's like 2.5, 2.75. So part of me wonders that 3%, like, are you paying a little bit more to cover that little bit they gave you? Like, it's just, I mean, that's just my assumption. But that's interesting that they make everyone agree to 3%. I looked up, so when your article came out, I looked up their website like immediately. And the first thing when I Googled them was a paid ad. And it said, need cash with a big question mark. Contact us now with no credit check required. Get this loan alternative, blah, blah, blah. So in my opinion, it felt targeted, like for someone that really needs cash. And even their website talks about a loan alternative, get quick cash. It doesn't say anything about timelines, personal loan alternative, no need to borrow or make payments, no credit check. So then last week I looked up their website since your article came out, and it's much different. The paid ads are gone. And now it says specifically, this is not a loan. It says that multiple times. It also says you have a 3-day right to change your mind. And then it specifically says it's a 40-year agreement, a quote, long-term relationship. And then they finally put in disclosures on the bottom, which essentially tells you that they're putting a lien on your home. And this is on like the main page. And so I feel like we need to thank you for that, because had they not been called out, I don't think any of that transparent information would still be on their website. Like, I just don't think that they would have been pushed to make any changes. Even at the time you wrote this, they had 16 current lawsuits in Tampa. Was it 16?
That sounds about right. But yeah, I mean, so I will say, like, when I reached out to the company and asked about whether, like, what they did to inform people on how this worked, and like whether, because a lot of people told me, like, I feel like I was tricked, or like I feel like they weren't forthcoming. They said that they always walk through the contract with everyone who signs up for this program. Anyone who signs the contract is like fully informed on the details. There's no way of knowing. It's a he said, she said in that situation.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, this definitely, if someone did want to claim that they were defrauded or that there was false advertising, this helps protect them against that for sure. I did mention in my story that the AG's office here in Florida, the state attorney general, had an open investigation looking into the company. I'm not sure what that entails, because they really wouldn't go into detail about it.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, anytime someone complains about a company, they're required to open up an investigation. One possible thing, and that they could have been looking into, was whether there were questions raised about like deceptive advertising. So this action makes me wonder if that was a factor at all. But that's just speculation.
Yeah, same. I mean, I'm just comparing like the before and afters of like what's put in my face. And it definitely went from the wording of a loan alternative to like, this is not a loan. Multiple times it's like, this is not a loan, all over the platform.
Yeah. One piece of information that they added on there that was not there before, that I thought was interesting, was they have this disclaimer here. It says, when you sign the homeowner benefit agreement, a memorandum will be filed in the county where the property is located. The purpose of the memorandum is to serve public notice of the homeowner's obligations under the HBP agreement. So I don't know if that's something they were doing before and just weren't like broadcasting that, or if they've just started doing that. But I thought that was really interesting, and kind of maybe shows like a little bit of a glimpse into like how they keep tabs on people.
Right. And track your property. Absolutely. Yeah, it was fascinating. And I know you tried to talk to the Association of Realtors too.
Mm-hmm.
And did they share anything or?
So initially for this story, I had reached out to the Florida Realtors, so the like state branch of NAR. I called and emailed them a bunch of times, and I didn't get any response, not even a decline to comment. So I was like, that's funny.
Right.
And then I did reach out to NAR after that. They definitely gave me a very carefully worded response. I think the tricky thing here is that the realtors have a very stringent code of ethics. And part of that code essentially says like you can't badmouth other
Right, right, right.
organizations. So I think that might have come into play to a degree. I tried to get some local realtors here to talk about Envy Realty because I mean, not only is it hurting the consumer, but like that's also hurting them if they're like snatching up business
Right,
from
right.
people. But and a couple said to me off the record that they disagreed with the company's practices, but that like they really were afraid to say anything publicly because they weren't sure if they would get a slap on the wrist for violating the code. When I reached out to the National Association of Realtors, I did ask specifically if MV Realty's business model violated their code of ethics because it's this whole long code. I mean, I'm familiar with
Right.
parts of it, like maybe there's something in there. And they did not respond to that question. Personally, I feel like from an organizational perspective, like it would behoove them to try and crack down on this type of thing if the company is taking away business from realtors who are looking to make a commission the honest way by selling a home. I mean, again, MV Realty says like they're in the business of selling homes. I mean, like I have quoted in my article, a woman who raised questions about whether it was easier for them to make money off of people violating their contract than to sell a home the old fashioned way. So,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I
And
think
that's a
like,
fair question, right? I mean, especially if there's 30,000 people that have signed up and only 700 have,
right. No
however.
question that what they're doing is not illegal. Like it's definitely legal what they're doing. But I think when you're dealing with a professional association, like with the realtors, then you're not just dealing with the question of legality, you're also dealing with the question of ethics.
Right. It's hard too, because I get the same thing, right? So like my whole podcast is calling out issues and experiences people have had. And to me, there are agents that are like, "Ugh," like I don't want to do it. I had one agent that came on and we had a really open dialogue about like experienced or inexperienced agents in real estate. And like within a week, he got an email saying, you need to retract your statement. You can't say that. And he's like, well, what I said was true. It's weird. It's kind of like there's never an acknowledgement sometimes of negative things that need to be addressed or need to be discussed. And it's kind of all skirted. So I think it's important that these kind of articles come out because if no one else is going to speak up, like I think it's important that someone's educating the consumer on like, here's exactly what happens when you use this program and here's who's impacted by this, which I wanted to ask, what happened since your article came out? Did they reach out to you?
I mean, I haven't heard from them since. And I will say that they like when I reached out to them to let them know I was going to be writing the story and went through like each of the points I hit and what each of the clients who I interviewed said, they were very responsive and they were open to answering pretty much any question I sent them, which I mean, I at least appreciate the transparency
Right.
there. But I have not heard from them since. Again, like I said before, I did mention in my story that the AG's office had this investigation. I have not heard any updates on that either. So, I mean, I'm going to continue to keep an eye on this to see if anything happens. But as of right now, it seems like they are continuing to operate business as usual.
There's locations in other states too. And that's why I think your story needs to be a little bit louder because I know that they're in other cities outside of, Tampa and outside of the state of Florida. And I just think it's important that the pressure is on them. I get that there's a contract, but I think that we need to start being more transparent about what we offer, what we do, because I don't think that the level of comprehension is there for like a 10-page contract for some people, and we can't, I know people need to take responsibility for what they sign, but if they're in a desperate situation, which like I meant to ask you, how did these people find this company? Did this company reach out to them or did they find this company?
Yeah. So in all of the cases of the people that I spoke to, they were contacted by MV. Two of them got emails, and one of them said that someone actually came and knocked on their door and asked if they were interested in selling their home at any point down the line. So yeah, that was really interesting. I'm not sure with the emails, like how they're choosing to target people.
Were all of those people in foreclosure that were contacted?
So
Okay.
the other two were not, but yeah, it's unclear to me how they're targeting people. But in the case of Roy, like I think he really was someone who was desperate and needed the money. The other two cases, I mean, if you think you're going to have to sell your home at some point and someone's offering it to you on a silver platter, I can see why you would take that. I mean, again, the advice is always to read any contract that you're going to sign, but like, how often do people actually do that? Like, do you read the terms of service every time you update your Apple iOS? Like,
Nope.
most people don't in most cases. So I just like, you should, but like realistically, that doesn't always happen.
No, I agree. I agree. Thank you for this. Is there anyone else you're investigating that you want to share with me that you can, or probably not, huh?
I won't go into too much detail because I don't want to say anything that's not vetted, but
Right. If
maybe
it's juicy, let me know when it comes out. I'm all for like the juicy, the juicy gossip stuff.
definitely.
Have a question or a story for us? Hit us up at therealestatereplay.com.